In the third year of our marriage, I accidentally overheard Pei Zhou talking about me with his white moonlight. He praised me for being a good head lady of the house. He respected me but could never love me. His white moonlight asked him, since he insisted on bringing her back to the manor, would I develop a rift with him? Pei Zhou shook his head. She loves me so much, she'll definitely accept you. But what he didn't expect was that the very next day, the divorce papers I wrote were placed in his study. On the third day after Pei Zhou brought his white moonlight back on his own, I stumbled upon them embracing each other in a corner of the garden. She is a good head lady. While I am out fighting battles, she manages the household affairs in perfect order. I can no longer give her my heart, so I can only give her the title of general's wife. That one sentence left me frozen in place. Song Qingru nestled obediently in his arms, her voice pitiful and delicate. Pei Lang, what if sister develops a rift with you because of me? Pei Zhou shook his head. She won't. She is madly in love with me. She'll definitely accept you. I stood quietly not far away, watching these two people, my expression dazed. In the third month after Pei Zhou went on his campaign, I went up the mountain to pray for his blessings, just like any other day, but as fate would have it. Among all those wooden prayer plaques tied with red strings on the densely shaded branches, my eyes happened to land on Pei Zhou's handwriting. I only wish for Qingru and me to be together for life without grievance or worry. The date signed was spring of the fourth year of Shiyuan. Me heart trembled violently. By that time, Pei Zhou and I had already been married for a year. And now we have been married for 3 years. Pei Zhou had never mentioned Song Qingru, and I thought this youthful obsession of his had gradually faded. But that day, Pei Zhou returned from his military campaign. I joyfully rushed to the entrance to greet him, only to see him carefully helping a woman dismount from the horse. It was none other than his childhood sweetheart, Song Qingru. Even so, I still tried to deceive myself. Pei Zhou simply couldn't bear to see her suffer since she was all alone. Only after witnessing this scene with my own eyes did I understand that Pei Zhou had never loved me, yet he was certain that I was desperately in love with him. Although the Song family's reputation has been restored, Qingru's father, brothers, and other older relatives have all passed away from illness, leaving her without any support, so I brought her back with me. This was the first explanation Pei Zhou gave me after returning from his campaign. I looked at him and said softly, "Husband, you've been away on campaign for over 3 months. Is this really the first intimate thing you have to say to me upon your return?" Pei Zhou was momentarily stunned, but he said nothing more and replied indifferently, "I still have some official business. I'll rest in the study tonight." The bedroom window wasn't shut tight. A gust of wind blew in, and the candlelight flickered weakly, growing ever dimmer. I suddenly recalled the day Pei Zhou proposed to me. The year Pei Zhou came of age, Father Song committed a crime, and the whole family was exiled to the frontier. Pei Zhou fell seriously ill, and even knelt before the emperor to plead for mercy, disregarding his own future. I've heard that on the day Song Qingru left the capital, Pei Zhou rode alongside the road on horseback, promising her, "If you don't marry me, I, Pei Zhou, will never take a wife in my lifetime." Yet barely a year had passed when old Madame Pei fell gravely ill. Her only wish was to see Pei Zhou married before she passed. My marriage to Pei Zhou was very rushed and simple. But on our wedding night, when Pei Zhou lifted my bridal veil and our eyes met, my cheeks still flushed red. I thought that with time, one day I would be able to live in harmony with my husband in the end. I was utterly wrong. After that night, Pei Zhou arranged a residence outside for Song Qingru to live in. Every few days he would find some excuse to go visit her. When Song Qingru was nearly harassed by a lecher on the street, Pei Zhou was furious and whipped the man. From then on, whenever Song Qingru went out, he stayed by her side without leaving. But my maid said, "The general must care about you, madam. He sent Miss Song away because he was afraid you'd overthink things. Look how beautiful the new hairpin he gave you is." I remained silent. A few days later, after I finished my routine inspection of the jewelry shops under my name, I happened to run into Song Qingru, whom I hadn't seen for many days. The moment she saw me, she smiled. "That golden hairpin suits you well, madam. Pei Lang picked out many for me that day, but I thought this one suited madam better, so I had him give it to you." I saw the safety charm tied at her waist it used to hang on Pei Zhou. Pei Zhou's blatant favoritism filled her with smug satisfaction. Yet, I wasn't anxious. "Thank you, Miss Song, for your patronage. If you like them, my shop has many more hairpins and ornaments. Since you don't have silver on you, just have Pei Zhou buy them for you. Either way, the money ends up in the Pei family's pocket." A familiar madam nearby scoffed. Other than brothel whores, who else would let a man other than their father, brother, or husband buy jewelry for them? Truly. Song Qingru's face turned from green to pale, yet suddenly her eyes welled up with tears as she looked behind me. Pei Zhou's expression was cold. "I treat Qingru like my own sister. She is all alone, so I help her get some things. Wan, don't overthink it." Upon hearing the word sister, Song Qingru trembled all over, looking up at him in disbelief. Pei Zhou averted his eyes and walked to my side. "If madam has nothing else to do, let's return to the manor together." He didn't look back even once, seemingly siding with me. But I knew the one he didn't care about was actually me. He had Song Qingru move out because he was afraid she'd stay in the general's manor without a proper status. He was just concerned about her reputation. Calling it sibling affection in front of others was the same reason. If Pei Zhou cared about me, how could he not know that the shop where he bought me the golden hairpin was under my name in the first place? How could he give me something Song Qingru had rejected, just to humiliate me? And how could he wear the peace charm I obtained by kowtowing every step of the way on Song Qingru? After Pei Zhou returned to the manor, he was also restless, several times wanting to open his mouth to say something, but what came first was news from the servants. Miss Song cried for a long time after she went back, and just now she is gone missing. Pei Zhou abruptly stood up, his clenched fists showing bulging veins. He didn't even have time to say a word to me before rushing out. All these years, Pei Zhou never took a concubine and was gentle and courteous to me on ordinary days. Even the intimate moments late at night were extremely restrained. So after Song Qingru returned, I finally witnessed with my own eyes how Pei Zhou, right in front of me, had all his attention captured by another woman. A wave of bitterness suddenly welled up in my heart. Ignoring the servant's attempts to stop me, I also led out a horse and followed after him. Me father was a former subordinate of old General Pei, and I too grew up on horseback as a child. But after my coming-of-age ceremony, I gave up all these things, and under my mother's guidance learned household management and accounting, music, chess, calerta, and painting. I hadn't ridden a horse in years. The tender flesh on my inner thighs was rubbed raw and painful, the fierce wind howling past my ears. I stopped my horse, watching Pei Zhou catch Song Qingru, who was about to fall off the cliff. Song Qingru was crying so hard she could barely breathe, desperately pounding on Pei Zhou, struggling for him to let go. I shouldn't have come back. My father and brother are dead, and everyone can bully me and look down on me. Let go of me. I'd rather die and go see them right now. Pei Zhou held her tightly and refused to let go until Song Qingru cried herself tired and had no strength left. She lifted her face, looking at Pei Zhou with a stubborn expression. "Liar, you said you wouldn't marry anyone but me." Pei Zhou's eyes were full of guilt. "It wasn't my wish. It is just. I've already failed you. I can't fail Wan too," Song Qingru said with a sobbing voice. "Then why did you come to provoke me again? You clearly told me that you don't love her at all." She cried until her voice went hoarse. "Pei Zhou, I don't want to be a concubine. You are all I have left. You clearly promised me. Please don't fail me. Okay?" Pei Zhou had his back to me, so I couldn't see his expression. But I could see that Pei Zhou slowly held her tighter, as if he wanted to melt her into his very flesh and blood. Then he lifted Song Qingru's chin and kissed her fiercely. Song Qingru was stunned for a moment, then responded even more passionately. If I weren't Pei Zhou's wife, I would have applauded this scene of broken mirrors made whole again, of suffering ending in sweetness. "The servant said you went out riding today." When Pei Zhou came back, the night was already deep, and it was raining quite heavily. I nodded. Pei Zhou hesitated for a moment, but still spoke. Wan Wan, I want to bring Qingru back to the manor. Husband, what status do you intend to let her stay in the general's manor with? Pei Zhou said with difficulty. As a concubine. I stood up and walked toward him. But husband, when you married me, you told me that in this lifetime you would never take a concubine. Qingru is different. Pei Zhou blurted out without even thinking. I smiled and issued the order to leave. Husband, I may have caught a cold. Let's sleep in separate rooms tonight. Pei Zhou was stunned, opened his mouth wanting to say something, but still left. After a while, my personal maid Furong came in. Miss the General has left the manor and gone to Miss Song's place. Furong was the dowry maid I brought from home. She was wholeheartedly loyal to me, her eyes full of anger and disappointment. The General leaving the main courtyard of the General's manor late at night to go to Miss Song's place. If word gets out, what dignity would Madame have left? Or is it that the General is certain Miss Song will enter the rear courtyard in a few days? So acting like this now doesn't matter anymore? Listening to Furong's words, I slowly curved my lips. Yes, he is certain of it. I thought again of what I heard Pei Zhou say that day in the back garden. She loves me desperately. She will definitely accept you. The rain outside the window grew heavier with occasional claps of thunder. Furong, bring me paper and brush. I wrote, stroke by stroke, a divorce agreement. I don't know if what Pei Zhou wanted to say before he left was that he would stay and keep me company. Pei Zhou knew I was afraid of thunder. On the first stormy night after we got married, I was awakened by the thunder and trembled as I hid in his arms. Pei Zhou was stunned for a moment before he embraced me, his voice steady as he told me not to be afraid, that he was here. From then on, whenever there was thunder and rain, as long as he was in the capital, no matter what he was doing, he would prioritize being with me. All these years I served my mother-in-law and managed the household affairs without slacking off for a single day. Before she passed away, she also instructed Pei Zhou to treat me well. We went from being courteous and respectful at first to becoming increasingly close. I thought Pei Zhou and I would fall in love over time. Even if we were just a harmonious couple, sooner or later, we would become an envied pair, but Song Qingru came back. All those intimate moments, all that care and affection, turned into nothing but an illusion. I placed the divorce papers on the desk in Pei Zhou's study, packed my belongings, and returned to my parents' home. Pei Zhou, there is something you got wrong. I love you, but I haven't completely lost myself. If you trample on my feelings like this, I will leave. The next evening, Pei Zhou came. Me parents naturally wouldn't stop him, so Pei Zhou stormed into my bedroom in a rage. Mo Wan, what is the meaning of this? You want to divorce me. I looked at him. If General Pi is unwilling to divorce, you can also grant me a letter of repudiation. Pei Zhou's jaw tightened as if suppressing his anger. Mo Wan, you will forever be the head madam of the General's manor. No one can surpass you. Head madam. I cut off Pei Zhou's words, wanting to smile, but only managed to pull out a trace of bitterness. Pei Zhou, do you know, I saw it long ago. Pei Zhou's face stiffened. What did you see? What did I see? Let me think. Was it you and Song Qingru embracing, telling her that I managed the household affairs for you, that you can only give me a title but not your love? Or was it that day when you chased after Song Qingru? She said she didn't want to be a concubine, and you didn't refute her. Pei Zhou suddenly became flustered. That is not it, Wan Wan. That day I was just afraid something would happen to her. I didn't dare provoke her. Qingru won't threaten your position. Enough, Pei Zhou. My voice gradually lowered. I don't care anymore. Do you still remember? The safety amulet I gave you before you went on this expedition. Pei Zhou nodded, softening his voice. Of course I remember, Wan Wan. You've always had me in your heart. But do you know, 2 years ago when I went to pray for a safety amulet for you, I saw the prayer plaque you wrote. You wanted to be with Song Qingru forever and ever. Then what am I? I still couldn't hold back. My eyes reddened, staring straight at Pei Zhou. Why would you think, no matter how you mistreat me, I would never leave you? Is that how you see me? Pei Zhou's lips trembled as he tried to take my hand, but I dodged away. Before he left, he said he absolutely wouldn't agree to a divorce, but would allow me to stay at my parents' home for a few days to think things over. Mother also urged me not to act rashly. But father called me to his study. He let out a long sigh and said, "I've already had a long talk with Pei Zhou. If there is already a rift between you two, forcing it to continue will only make you a resentful couple. If you want a divorce, then divorce. Either way, father's salary is enough to support you. If you meet someone you like, just remarry." My eyes stung and tears fell. These years, while Pei Zhou was away at war, I had to manage and make decisions for all the affairs in the household, big and small, which was mentally exhausting. But these few days at home, sleeping in leisurely, reading and playing chess, were a rare taste of peace. But the peaceful days were suddenly interrupted by terrible news. My father was imprisoned. While comforting my panicked mother, I sent people to make arrangements and inquire about the situation. Father was accused of corruption, and the one who impeached him had always minded his own business and never crossed paths with father. But as I investigated, the truth surfaced. That person was from the faction of the Ministry of Rights Vice Minister, and the youngest son of Vice Minister Zhao of the Ministry of Rights, who had long been married, once had a very close relationship with Song Qingru. I wrote a letter and prepared generous gifts to have someone deliver them, but they were directly rejected and sent back, along with a message from the other party. My master says, whoever made Miss Song lose face in public shouldn't expect to have it easy either. I heard your father has long suffered from a leg ailment. The dungeon is damp and cold before the trial at the Court of Judicial Review. Make sure he doesn't die in prison. I clenched my teeth, but couldn't think of a solution. The other party came prepared. Unless I could immediately rescue my father, every moment he spent in prison meant he could be deliberately tormented. Just thinking about those sinister methods of torture made me shudder with fear. Prepare the sedan, we're going to the general's residence. Although I was the main wife of the general's residence, these past few years I had only socialized with the ladies of the inner courtyard. The only one who could speak up at court and immediately protect my father was Pei Zhou. When I returned to the general's residence, the servants and maids I encountered along the way had strange expressions on their faces. I found it somewhat odd, until I pushed open the door to Pei Zhou's study, and the shameful scene before my eyes sent all my blood rushing to my head. Song Qingru sat on Pei Zhou's lap with her clothes disheveled, her cheeks flushed. It wasn't hard to imagine what indecent acts these two had been doing before I came in. When Pei Zhou saw me, he was stunned for a moment, then looked somewhat uncomfortable. Song Qingru let out a cry of alarm and buried her face in Pei Zhou's embrace. I forced myself to suppress my body's urge to tremble from overwhelming anger and lowered my head. Father is still in prison. I can't anger Pei Zhou. Pei Zhou, my father was falsely accused and thrown in prison. Please save him. Father is old and can't endure the hardships of prison. He wasn't surprised, as if he already knew about this. My heart immediately turned cold. Song Qingru spoke up. Madam, the great Zhou has its own laws. If your father was upright and incorruptible, never committed any corruption, how could he be imprisoned? If everyone who committed a crime came to beg the general to save them, how would the general maintain his standing in court? Miss Song, I am the general's wife, and my father is the general's father-in-law. This is a family matter. It is not your place to comment. Song Qingru's face turned pale. I continued. Besides, whether someone truly committed a crime before being imprisoned, shouldn't you know better than me? The Song family was also framed back then, which led to the whole family being exiled, now that their names have been cleared. Only Song Qingru remains alive. If your deceased parents and brothers could hear you speaking so self-righteously from the afterlife, I wonder how they would feel. As soon as I finished speaking, I regretted it. I shouldn't have let Song Qingru provoke me into satisfying a momentary urge to lash out. Sure enough, Pei Zhou's expression slowly turned cold. Wanwan, I never knew you had become so vicious, tearing open others' wounds like this. Vicious. I never expected to hear these two words from Pei Zhou's mouth. I gritted my teeth and said, "What do I have to do for the general to be willing to help me?" Song Qingru sobbed softly with reddened eyes, while Pei Zhou held her tight and coaxed her carefully, never once sparing me a glance. Apologize to Qingru. I stood frozen in place, every word humbling myself to the dust, apologizing to Song Qingru. But Song Qingru kept crying, even starting to rub her chest, and Pei Zhou furrowed his brows, his expression cold as ice. After a long while, I lifted my skirt hem and slowly knelt down, my forehead hitting the ground heavily again and again. It was my slip of the tongue that offended Miss Song. However, Miss Song wants me to make amends. I'll do as you wish. Pei Zhou, if you still remember that I've worked hard for this general's manor, I beg you to save my father from prison. I kept my head lowered, unable to see the expression on Pei Zhou's face, only hearing his voice soften. Wan, why must you? Get up. I'll send someone right away, Qingru. Pei Zhou's words were cut short as he suddenly cried out Song Qingru's name in alarm. She had fainted. He swept Song Qingru up by the waist and strode toward the door. I clutched desperately at Pei Zhou's sleeve. Pei Zhou, I am begging you. Pei Zhou's steps halted for a moment. I looked up full of hope, only to see his face filled with disgust and rage. Qingru has a heart condition and can't handle agitation. If she is fine, then so be it. But if anything happens to her, even your father dying in prison won't be enough. I returned to the Mo residence in a daze, and all the bitterness and grievances I had been holding back for so long burst out the moment. I saw Mother. I threw myself into Mother's arms and cried, "It is all my fault. If I hadn't married Pei Zhou, Father wouldn't have fallen into this disaster." My heart was filled with both rage and pain. Just then, a servant came to report that a young man with whip marks on his face was visiting at the door. "Regarding your father's matter, I am willing to lend Madam a helping hand." It was actually that lecher who had once harassed Song Qingru on the street. The lecher's name was Lin Nan, facing my questions. He said seriously, "Madam must think I am some kind of good-for-nothing rich kid. But what Madam doesn't know is that my Lin family is also a scholarly clan. I was betrothed to Song Qingru since childhood, but our family fell on hard times, and the Song family climbed up to the general's residence, refusing to honor this engagement. Back then, my elder brother went to propose marriage on my behalf, but was beaten and thrown out by the Song family. Because of my matter, my brother lost a leg. After 10 years of hard study, he could no longer take the imperial examinations and had to return home to become a village teacher. And Song Qingru, afraid I would spread rumors outside and damage her maiden reputation. He seemed to recall some old memories. Fury ignited in his eyes, his teeth grinding audibly. In short, I utterly despised the Song family. To be honest, those matters about the Song family back then, I was the one who painstakingly gathered evidence and reported them. Wasn't the Song family falsely accused? Lin Nan sneered coldly. The accusations are false. The things the Song family did deserve to be punished with death 10 times over. As for the so-called exoneration, who is behind it? Surely Madame Pei already has the answer in her heart. I subconsciously twisted the handkerchief in my hands tighter. It was Pei Zhou who did it. Lin Nan said he had some connections with people at the Court of Judicial Review and could have them transfer my father over tonight to await questioning. Though he'd still be imprisoned, that second young Master Zhao's reach couldn't extend that far. That very night, I visited my father in the Court of Judicial Review's prison. Fortunately, it was timely enough, but even so, my father had already suffered the whip. Second young Master Zhao was vicious. He had people drive iron skewers directly under my father's fingernails, then poured salt water over them. The jailer said second young Master Zhao specifically ordered them to give my father a warm welcome. At first, because of my relationship with Pei Zhou, they didn't dare do anything, so they sent someone to the general's residence to carefully and tactfully inquire even. If my father really had committed a crime, as long as Pei Zhou said the word, my father could at least avoid being tortured before the trial. This was well within proper protocol and wouldn't invite criticism. But how did Pei Zhou respond, he said. Handle it impartially. Don't come ask me again. Handle it impartially. His righteous integrity, his unyielding principles, he used them all on my Mo family. But this impartiality when it came to Song Qingru's affairs had completely vanished. It was my fault. I fell in love with that young general at first sight during my maiden days of spring awakening. Yet I failed to see through it. Beneath Pei Zhou's handsome appearance lay nothing but a heart of a wolf. The embezzlement charge was fabricated from nothing. Young Master Zhao's purpose was simply to make my father suffer as much as possible, to punish me, to publicly humiliate Song Qingru. After father was temporarily safe, I devised ways to submit the evidence. The court of judicial review was naturally impartial, and before long my father was released. Mother and I were helping father onto the carriage about to leave, when Pei Zhou rushed over and grabbed my wrist. Let go. Regret nearly overflowed from Pei Zhou's eyes. Wanwan. I thought father-in-law was upright and honest, that nothing would happen. That day I was thrown into confusion by Qingru's sudden heart illness and misspoke. If something happened to Qingru, how could I face her late father? She had just recovered, and I sent someone to rescue father-in-law, but then I heard that the court of judicial review had already cleared his name. I almost wanted to laugh when I heard this. Pei Zhou first. Does your father-in-law's safety really matter so little to you? I could find out about this, but you couldn't. Second, even if your heart and eyes are full of your Qingru, can you really not spare even a moment to handle this matter? Third, my father also followed the old general in battles everywhere before, and when I married you, the Mo family never used this marriage to climb the ranks, which is why we ended up powerless and bullied by others. You've wronged the Song family, but does that mean you haven't wronged my Mo family? Pei Zhou frowned. Wanwan, how can you speak to me like this? But he knew he was in the wrong, so he didn't argue further. He must have been busy taking care of Song Qingru these past few days. His eyes were full of dark circles, and his tone was full of exhaustion. Wanwan, the person who framed your father, I've already made him suffer. Stop making a fuss. Come back with me. I remained unmoved and still proposed a divorce. Pei Zhou acted as if he was making a huge concession. Wanwan, stop making a fuss. I promise you I won't let Qingru enter the manor. The general's manor will forever have only you as its mistress. I absolutely refused to give in, and Pei Zhou became somewhat agitated. Wanwan, Pei Lang. Pei Zhou's voice and Song Qingru's rang out almost at the same time. I looked toward the sound, and Song Qingru's face was pale as she clutched her chest. Pei Lang, are you going to abandon me again? Is that it? Song Qingru looked at me, a flash of resentment in her eyes that quickly turned to sorrow. Pei Lang, I only need one word from you, do you want me? Or Mo Wan? Pei Zhou's face was full of conflicted emotions. I let out a cold laugh and walked over to help him make his choice. I said, Pei Zhou, if you absolutely refuse to divorce, I'll go strike the Denguin drum and file a complaint that someone forged evidence in the Song family's case reversal and have this delicate young miss who is always having heart ailments sent back to the border. Song Qingru's eyes widened, and Pei Zhou froze too, then reacted. Who told you this? Don't worry, General Pei. I've only heard rumors and have no substantial evidence, but I wonder if this matter can withstand an investigation. Pei Zhou was shocked and furious, even somewhat heartbroken. Wanwan. Must we really come to this? You kowtowed every step of the way to pray for a peace talisman for my safety. You stayed up all night caring for me when I was injured, and now you are threatening me with something that could land me in the imperial prison. Looking at him like this, all I felt in my heart was desolation. Everything I'd done for Pei Zhou, he knew perfectly well, yet he insisted on trampling my sincere heart over and over again. It was as if he'd only just realized he was finally about to lose someone who had poured her whole heart out for him. So he gripped my wrist and wouldn't let go. Wanwan. On the other side, Song Qingru clutched her chest and fainted again. But right before she fainted, she still had one last bit of strength, looking at Pei Zhou with hazy eyes and saying, Pei Lang, do you still remember when you were 15? You said you would marry no one but me. In the end, Pei Zhou still agreed to the divorce. Besides the items on the dowry list, Pei Zhou also gave me quite a lot extra. Wan, even after the divorce, if anything comes up in the future, you can always come to the general's manor to find me. I'll help you however I can." He hesitated to speak, and there was actually some deep affection and regret in his eyes as he looked at me. I turned a blind eye to Pei Zhou's pretense, but I accepted everything he gave without question. After all, father's injuries would inevitably require doctors and medicine. In the days that followed, besides staying home to accompany my parents, I managed the shops and occasionally exchanged news with Lin Nan. Song Qingru dismissed and sold off most of the servants in the Pei manor, especially the maids and old servants who had served me well before. One of them came to me crying about her grievances. Pei Zhou left all matters of the inner courtyard entirely to Song Qingru's discretion. He was always like this, only playing the hands-off boss. You don't know that Miss Song hasn't even married the general yet, but she is already acting like the lady of the house, replacing all the people inside and outside the Pei manor, afraid that the servants might know what she used to be. The Song family fell into misfortune early on, so Song Qingru knew nothing about managing the household, keeping accounts, or handling subordinates. Pei Zhou even more so didn't bother with these backyard matters at all. The old servants who could have helped Song Qingru were driven away by her. The new batch of servants naturally included those who were good at reading people's moods and flattering others they fawned over Song Qingru while lining their own pockets. Pei Zhou was used to the well-organized general's manner, so he asked Song Qingru to learn household management and accounting. But Song Qingru questioned Pei Zhou, asking if he thought she wasn't as good as me, then just kept crying. It gave Pei Zhou even more of a headache. Without me, the vicious first wife, interfering, the two of them actually developed quite a lot of friction instead. I comforted her for a while, then had those clever homeless people come work under me. Lin Nan sent me another piece of news. His investigation into Pei Zhou's evidence fabrication was already showing results. The news that Pei Zhou was going to marry Song Qingru spread throughout the capital. Song Qingru specifically requested the best master craftsman from my shop to make her phoenix crown. She leaned against Pei Zhou, covering her mouth with a coy smile. "Shopkeeper Mo, if the phoenix crown is well made, the Pei manor will definitely give you more business in the future. You'd better put your heart into it. After all, if a woman is married for 2 or 3 years without bearing children, she probably can't conceive. If you remarry in the future without any heirs, you'd better hold on to your money tightly." She was already riding high on her success. When she said this, before I could say anything, Pei Zhou's expression changed first. "Shut up." I looked calmly at Pei Zhou, General Pei. Being a person, one should at least have a conscience. In the first year of my marriage to Pei Zhou, before he went off to war, I became pregnant. But that time, Pei Zhou did not return victorious. He came back gravely wounded. I took care of him without rest or sleep, and finally pulled him back from death's door. But I had a miscarriage due to overexertion. That child, in the letters exchanged with Pei Zhou before then, had even been given a name. His name was Anan. Wan. At that time, Pei Zhou wasn't completely unconscious. During his occasional moments of lucidity, he would hold my hand and say, "Wan, you treat me so well. I, Pei Zhou, will never let you down in this lifetime." Now Pei Zhou looked at me, his eyes full of regret. How laughable after I had completely given up on Pei Zhou. There were always people reminding him, one thing after another, of how I once gave him my whole heart. I smiled slightly. "General Pei, it is all in the past. You'd better worry more about yourself." Lin Nan was swift and decisive in his actions. The next day, father told me that someone in court had impeached Pei Zhou, accusing him of favoring a concubine over his wife, forcing his legal wife to divorce for an outside mistress, and beating an imperial merchant in the street without cause, among other things. This, of course, wasn't enough to threaten Pei Zhou, but that person also simultaneously reported that this outside mistress was from the Song family of the embezzlement case years ago, and that Pei Zhou had forged evidence to overturn the Song family's case for her sake. The court was shaken. As for whether I had a hand in all this, of course I did. After all, I am the one who knows Pei Zhou best. Even without prying into court affairs, I knew exactly who his trusted confidants were in private at such a critical juncture. Pei Zhou naturally couldn't marry Song Qingru with great fanfare. Meanwhile, Lin Nan was pressing harder and harder. The Song family incident from years ago had huge repercussions, and everyone at court was avoiding any connection to it, while Pei Zhou was run ragged dealing with this mess. He was forced to stay in the capital and wait for the case to be cleared up. Pei Zhou came to find me again. When someone called for me from outside, I was in the shop talking to a young gentleman. Looking up, I saw Pei Zhou standing outside, his expression obscure and unreadable. "Wan, who is he?" The handsome young gentleman said gently, "I won't disturb shopkeeper Mo any further. I'll come back in half a month to pick it up." The moment that gentleman left, Pei Zhou couldn't wait to step forward and interrogate me. "How long has it been since the divorce, and you are already eager to find someone new?" "Pei Zhou, what right do you have to say that to me? Besides, that gentleman was just here to order a hairpin as a birthday gift for his beloved wife." Pei Zhou stared at me intently. "Wan, is this what you wanted? Helping that Lin Nan, making me a target for everyone. Do you hate me that much? What does the general mean by this? If General Pei is innocent, surely no one could fabricate evidence to frame you out of thin air." The moment I finished speaking, Pei Zhou clenched his fist. After a long while, he said hoarsely, "If this is what you want, as long as it can calm your anger, whatever you want, so be it." Pei Zhou's fabrication of evidence was set in stone and couldn't withstand any investigation. But Pei Zhou wasn't the type to sit and wait for death over romantic affairs. All these years, all his recklessness was only given to Song Qingru. So I just sneered coldly, but Pei Zhou suddenly said, "Wan, I am going to war." Only then did it dawn on me why Pei Zhou wasn't panicking at all. War had broken out at the border, and the court was in need of capable men. The case of Pei Zhou's false testimony could only be temporarily dropped. If he returned victorious again, the court would be even less likely to punish such a meritorious official. Pei Zhou continued, "Wan, I don't blame you. You are right to hate me. For Qingru, I did many wrong things and let you down. But once on the battlefield, whether I can come back alive is uncertain. Before every expedition in the past, you would give me a safety amulet that you personally prayed for. I cut him off directly. General P, last time I kowtowed with every step to pray for your blessings, only to see on the mountain that you wanted to spend forever with Song Qingru. Now this safety amulet, you should go ask Miss Song for it. What are you coming to me for?" Pei Zhou was silent for a long time, then said hoarsely, "Wan, what if I said, I regret it?" I ignored him, closed the door, and showed him out. "Pei Zhou, I only want you to die, so why would I pray for your safety? Song Qingru came to flaunt at me. Do you think you can drive a wedge between me and my Pilang with a child who died long ago? Let me tell you, when he returns victorious, that is when he'll carry me in a grand sedan to marry me. Then congratulations to Miss Song. It is just, you'd better be able to endure the loneliness that day." Pei Zhou and Song Qingru argued over household management matters, and Song Qingru once again pulled her running away from home trick. But this time, Pei Zhou was held up by the progress of the forged evidence matter. The affairs of the P residence weren't just being watched by us in secret. There was also that devoted admirer of Song Qingru, the second young master Zhao. For Song Qingru's sake, he was capable of framing my father and making him suffer torture. Now that his beloved was upset again, he naturally rushed to comfort her without delay. By the time he arrived, second young master Zhao had already beaten him to it. What exactly he saw, no one knows. But judging from how he came to see me before his expedition, it was rather intriguing. Pei Zhou. Oh, Pei Zhou, how could you not have a taste of this feeling of being betrayed? Second young master Zhao was a libertine who frequented brothels full of tricks to coax women. After Pei Zhou went on his campaign, the two met privately many times under the pretense of admiring flowers and drinking tea. It is just unknown whether they actually had a secret affair. In the spring of the second year, Pei Zhou returned victorious. He sat on his horse, full of spirit, yet his complexion was somewhat pale. Song Qingru wept with joy, rushing to throw herself into his arms. But Pei Zhou dodged her. Pei Zhou looked toward me in the crowd, and Song Qingru immediately put on a wronged expression, whispering something in his ear. Pei Zhou's expression was extremely complicated. Song Qingru was pregnant. When Lin Nan found out, he sneered, "Whether it is actually General Pei's seed, who knows?" But I was in a daze because I thought of that child called Anan again. I thought this time, no matter what, Song Qingru would finally get her wish and become the general's wife. But Pei Zhou came to block my way again. At the temple I usually visited. After silently reciting the prayer scripture for Anand in my heart, I stood up from the cushion and saw Pei Zhou behind me. There were some very obvious bruises on his forehead, and he handed me a blood-stained peace amulet. "Wan, although I've already done many wrong things, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I never gave the peace amulet you prayed for to Qingru, the one you saw that time. She prayed for it herself." He began to tell me how he had hidden the peace amulet against his chest, and how that copper piece engraved with blessing scriptures had blocked an enemy's spear tip for him. Having narrowly escaped death, he became even more certain that I was the one who should spend a lifetime with him. I was trapped by past obsessions and didn't know how to cherish the person in front of me. I was utterly wrong. He took out another safety amulet. "Wan, I got this for you. From now on, I will never do anything to wrong you again. Let's start over, okay?" No wonder his forehead was injured. This kind of safety amulet requires one to kowtow 3 times with every step from the foot of the mountain to the peak to obtain. He was trying to imitate the way I used to love him to make me change my mind. But I just calmly said, "Then what are you going to do about Song Qingru? She is carrying your child." Hearing me ask this, a shadow flashed across Pei Zhou's eyes. "That child won't be kept. As for Song Qingru, I'll send her away too." I ignored Pei Zhou and left directly. Lin Nan was drinking tea in the back room of the shop, leisurely waiting for me. Seeing me return, his eyes smiled. "General P came to pester you again, Miss Mo. Do you know why?" Of course I knew. 3 months ago, my jewelry shop crafted an exquisitely delicate headdress set. I had someone deliver it to the Zhao residence for Madame Zhao. The Zhao brothers were at odds. Although the second young master was dissolute, he was quite favored as the youngest son. Even after the family split, there was still much friction between the first and second households. Madame Zhao was a shrewd woman and told me a lot of useful information. For example, the second young master of Zhao had been frequenting brothels for years and had long caught a dirty disease. For example, the second young master of Zhao once drunkenly boasted to a concubine that he had slept with the future general's wife. That concubine was from a respectable family, just waiting for her family to save enough money to redeem her. But he forcibly took her into his chambers. Thus, under Madame Zhao's deliberate arrangement, she became a secret spy for the main branch. Song Qingru naturally also sensed the change in Pei Zhou's attitude and still wanted to use young Master Zhao to deal with me. But Pei Zhou had probably already learned of their illicit affair, and under Pei Zhou's deliberate targeting, young Master Zhao could barely protect himself. Just then, another theft occurred in the Pei residence, and the culprit was Song Qingru's wet nurse. The wet nurse had left the residence when she was 6 years old, so she wasn't affected by the Song family's incident. Some time ago, through a twist of fate, she was bought back by Song Qingru and naturally treated as her trusted confidant. But this wet nurse's only son was a gambling addict. Seeing that Song Qingru was easy to deceive, she secretly stole many gold and silver ornaments to sell, paying off her son's gambling debts. Seeing that she had never been discovered, her appetite grew larger and larger. She actually stole a fine inkstone from Pei Zhou's study, thinking Pei Zhou wouldn't notice. But that inkstone was a gift I gave to Pei Zhou during our newlywed days. Before Pei Zhou received news of Song Qingru, again, he and I had shared many moments of talking by candlelight and enjoying each other's company while reading. Pei Zhou tried every way to make peace, sending people from time to show concern for me and visit requesting to see me. Even when I refused to see him again, he wasn't upset and still sent messages saying how he missed me while looking at things in the residence. As expected, Pei Zhou flew into a rage and wanted to sell off the wet nurse on the spot. Song Qingru came crying and making a scene to me. Pei Lang, my wet nurse is the only person from my past I have left by my side. It is just a matter of some silver. Why must you make such a big deal out of it? Or is it because this inkstone was a gift from that Mowan, and you simply can't bear to part with her? If that is the case, then why am I even staying in the Mo residence without any status or title? Pei Zhou was extremely cold, then get lost. Without you, Wanwan and I would still be doing just fine. Song Qingru looked as if she suddenly didn't recognize Pei Zhou anymore, her crying abruptly stopping. Pei Zhou didn't notice at all. Having finally gotten to see me, he looked at me with eyes full of deep affection. Wanwan, the peach blossoms on the mountain have bloomed. You always used to say I was too busy with official duties to accompany you. How about today? Shall we go enjoy the flowers? Song Qingru stood there watching blankly, then suddenly furrowed her brows. Pei Lang, I am in pain. Beneath her, blood was gradually dripping down, drop by drop. I was shocked and hurriedly told Pei Zhou to find someone to take her to the clinic. But Pei Zhou didn't care at all. Isn't she just about to miscarry? It is not even my child. What does it have to do with me? Pei Lang, the baby, save me. Save my baby. Song Qingru cried as she grabbed at Pei Zhou's sleeve, but he flung her off with one shake. Pei Zhou's face was full of disgust. So filthy, don't touch me. This child would be born with your dirty disease anyway. Better to send it off to reincarnation now. Song Qingru trembled all over. You knew everything. I was utterly sick of these two people. Take her to the clinic, not in my shop. Do I still want to open for business or not? Pei Zhou hurriedly apologized to me and had a servant send Song Qingru out. Don't worry, Wanwan. Those who have hurt you, I won't let a single one off. I wanted to retort the one who hurt me the most. Isn't that you? But as Pei Zhou turned around, on the exposed section of his neck, I saw a few red rashes. Sure enough, not long after, Song Qingru miscarried and was then sent to the manor. Young Master Zhao was also ambushed one night after visiting the pleasure houses, beaten up in a back alley with a sack over his head, and had 3 of his legs broken. The Zhao family naturally couldn't swallow this insult, but lacking evidence, and with Pei Zhou having just one victory and riding high on fame, His Majesty naturally sided with him. Young Master Zhao had been spoiled rotten because of Song Qingru. He could never again display his manly vigor. The more he had loved before, the more he hated now. Without that concern holding him back, he turned the Song family's affairs inside out, proving that Pei Zhou had indeed given false testimony. This time, the case that couldn't be investigated due to the war back then, finally had a key breakthrough. With solid evidence, even the emperor couldn't shield Pei Zhou. Pei Zhou was stripped of his position and kept in the capital awaiting further handling. He came to find me again, looking haggard. I thought he was going to pour out his grievances to me, but I noticed Pei Zhou also looked very strange, murmuring something about having already lost everything and not being able to lose me too. I looked at him expressionlessly. Pei Zhou, stop pestering me. Between you and me there is absolutely no possibility. Pei Zhou froze for a long moment, then said hoarsely, Wanwan, do you truly have no feelings left for me at all? Back then, your heart and eyes were clearly full of only me. I said resolutely, if I still had any feelings for you, then I, Mo Wan, would have truly lived these 20 years in vain. Song Qingru was thrown back into prison, awaiting judgment. As for the matter of second young Master Zhao framing my father, under Pei Zhou's deliberate retaliation and secret assistance from the eldest branch of the Zhao family and myself, it was dug up again, and he was also locked up. This time, I would return everything he inflicted on my father back to him. The situation with Song Qingru was rather interesting. Lin Nan specifically instructed that Song Qingru should be well taken care of to avenge his brother. The jailers were equally wary of Pei Zhou, fearing his return to power and not wanting to offend him, so they came to inquire. And Pei Zhou's response was, just handle it impartially. How laughable. Lin Nan and I went to visit Song Qingru. After her miscarriage, her lochia wouldn't stop, and she had been tortured in prison until her whole body was covered in wounds. She no longer had her former delicate and pretty appearance. Seeing me, her eyes shot out a glare of hatred. I relayed Pei Zhou's words to her without changing a single character. Song Qingru was stunned, then clutched her belly and burst into wild laughter. Pei Zhou, may you die a horrible death. I didn't feel any satisfaction, only sorrow. In the end, Pei Zhou merely lost his position, but there is still a chance he could be reinstated. Your life, however, is completely ruined. Song Qingru stared at me blankly, but then laughed like a madwoman number. His life is also completely ruined. This time, no one came to save Song Qingru. She was once again exiled to a bitterly cold land, but a frail woman who had just miscarried and hadn't properly recovered. She would very likely die on the road before even arriving. Pei Zhou's romantic scandals also spread throughout the capital, including the fact that the sweetheart he'd rather divorce his wife to marry had cuckolded him, and he'd even contracted a venereal disease. A ruined man like that could never be a general. No wonder the emperor stripped him of his position so readily. After Pei Zhou fell out of the emperor's favor, he sold off his assets in the capital and went to Jiangyan. I heard he spent a fortune hiring renowned physicians there, but they couldn't cure him at all. By the time I got news again, I heard that not only was his entire body covered with disgusting things, he also frequently had convulsions, and in the end, he became paralyzed. I shuddered, feeling that just hearing such news made me fear being infected by him. Shopkeeper, here is this month's account book for the shop. Please have a look. I took the ledger and examined it carefully. Lin Nan beside me looked helpless. Mo Wan, you've been busy for so many days in a row. Money can never be fully earned. Can't you come with me for a stroll in the outskirts? I didn't even raise my head. You are an imperial merchant, but I am not. If I don't work hard, my Mo family will only be at the mercy of others. Lin Nan curved his lips. If you were to, I quickly interrupted him, looking at him with clear eyes. I, Mo Wan, will never rely on anyone ever again. Song Qingru had one thing right. We women must never gamble our whole lives away, betting on whether we can forever keep a man's favor. What is held in your own hands is what matters most.